Human beings are curious creatures. We seek knowledge to make new things, to go new places, and make lives easier for ourselves. We're not perfect, but we try to be. But what happens when we use technology to become the best versions of ourselves? Will we have super strength? Will we be able to move things with our minds or fly? Or all the other things that we see in science fiction? How will this affect us and our world? We're going to take a deep dive into this area of technology. Today, we're going to look into the Augmented Human. Alright, so before we begin, let's look at the video's main menu. First, we will cover why I chose this topic. Then we'll dive into a quick definition and history of augmentation. From there, we'll see how modern augmentation works and its four main aspects. Then we will look at the many ethical issues of this technology, and we'll finish off with a brief conclusory note. There's a lot to cover, so let's hop right into it. First, the definition. Human Enhancement Technology, also called Human Augmentation Technology, can be defined as implants, drugs, genetic enhancements, or machines that alter, revive, or enhance the physical, mental, or sensory abilities of humans. I might be calling this HET or HA down the road just as a heads up. This definition covers a great deal, but don't worry, we're only going to focus on implants and machines. We often think of human augmentation as fancy new technology of the future. But HA has been around for almost as long as civilization has, and we even use them today as wearables and handhelds. Examples include watches, glasses, and megaphones, amongst others. Like many of the modern marvels we have today, most modern HA devices are products of war. New technology for war was being made to make people work harder, see further, do more damage, or take more hits. As time progressed, more people were coming back from war, though not always in a stable peace of mind or even in one piece. This led to the invention of prosthetics and eventually prosthetics with articulation. New methods were being made to provide mental and physical therapy to soldiers returning from war. Over the years, many of these technologies trickled down to commercial and civilian health markets. Many of the concepts have been reused for newer or more complex HA, and the new direction of HA is looking to connect these tools to humans better than ever before. Yes, modern human augmentation is physically connecting our bodies to technology to revive and enhance our abilities. The next question is, how? Unfortunately, this topic is so broad that I can't focus on any one technology. So consider this a crash course on how human augmentation works as a whole. In the past, humans have adapted to computers to use them effectively, but the future will see computers adapt to humans. We will make computers that understand and respond to human speech, gestures, and electrophysical signals, also known as signals from nerves. This brings us to the showrunner of today's video, brain-machine interfaces, also called BMI technology. When perfected, it'll allow for seamless interaction between people and machines, will improve human cognition, and allow for the enhancement of our capabilities. There are four main areas of augmentation that we're going to look into. These areas cover senses, actions, cognition, and emotions and morals. Augmented senses interpret outer multisensory information and present information through existing human senses. These senses can be cross-modal, where one sense is interpreted using another sense. Fun fact, Patrick from SpongeBob has cross-modal senses.
I can't hear you! It's too dark in here!
Augmented senses can exceed human capability, allowing people to sense things they otherwise couldn't, such as seeing infrared light or feeling sound waves. Taste is the least developed of the senses since it relates to smell and personal preference, but in general, the technology is there to feed people the senses that they may need. This is the one that we see on TV all the time. Augmented actions sense human action or stimulus and map them to physical or virtual environments to produce other actions. The physical space can be local or remote, but for day-to-day use, the machine would be local or attached to the body. Prostheses are undoubtedly the first thing that comes to mind. Prosthetics have come a long way. They can now give users rudimentary haptic senses, the sense of touch, through BMI. Take a look.
Thanks to a groundbreaking surgery called sensory reinnervation that remapped her nerves responsible for touch, Melissa is one of the first amputees in the world to be able to feel through a robotic prosthetic. The modular prosthetic limb, or MPL, interprets and converts signals from the body's nervous system to motion. When the MPL interacts with an object, signals from over 100 sensors send information back to the brain, creating a sense of touch.
Here we go. Are you ready?
Yep.
This is it.
Yeah. Right.
You can feel it?
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Ready? Close your eyes.
Oh.
Right there.
Yeah.
And for those who don't need prosthetics, exoskeletons also exist to enhance physical strength. Researchers say that as we become more connected to machines and the machines to the environment, augmented actions will work better because it will have a massive pool of data to make decisions on. Augmented cognition works by algorithmically detecting a person's cognitive state using sensors at specific locations in the brain, which will be more active depending on one's state. In many ways, augmented cognition is the forefront of modern HA technology, being the linking point between all other augmentations of the human body. This technology can already be used to treat Parkinson's disease, though it takes a great deal of dedication and cash. It is also used to help with physical therapy via nerve exercises, though that's somewhat of a mesh between actions and cognition. The end goal here is to have a seamless feedback loop of human data collection and machine response to overcome limitations in decision making and bias. Other goals include using the data on human cognition to make machines think like humans, or even create devices that work so well with human brains to the point where we could house human minds in them. This is unlikely and is more putting the brain in a machine rather than downloading the mind into some kind of SSD, but you know, sci-fi. And this brings us to a fun one. Augmented emotions and morals attempt to algorithmically detect, optimize, and align emotions or moral judgment to their best versions. This is exactly how it sounds. It's very ethically concerning. This tech is still in development and will advance as augmented cognition advances, but it's already able to alleviate depression, and from my understanding it's kind of a mix between implants and drugs. Current technology and research can already implement focused brain stimulation. By placing electrodes in specific parts of the brain, we can adjust feelings or even recall older memories. Eventually, we won't be asking ourselves how we can get this tech to work, but what the limits of our desired outcomes should be. I hope this appetizer of a crash course served you well. We are now ready for the main course, the ethical issues.
Round 1. Fight!
There are 3 levels of augmentation, which are important distinctions in how far this technology can take us. The first is therapy. Therapy aims to restore function via nanodevices and machines to the conditions before injury or a practical standard of physical and mental capabilities. Level 2 is enhancement. Enhancement allows people to perform with higher mental or physical capabilities. Examples of this include heightened reasoning, super memory capacity, super strength, and so on. Lastly, there is alteration. Alteration allows people to go beyond biological boundaries and add new features to the human body. Examples of this would be things like brain Wi-Fi, previous arms, or some decked out bionics. HA Tech can help people who were born differently or had horrible accidents to return to a normal life. A good example of this is Hugh Herr, who lost his legs after a rock climbing accident, but that motivated him to start a company that creates the most advanced bionic legs today. While few would contest providing bionics to someone born physically handicapped, improving abnormally low cognition is more difficult to gauge. Would we give some standardized average of cognition? What is considered average? Would the outcome be determined by money, family history, some constant, or something else? There are people called transhumanists who think the next step of human evolution is to mend ourselves with technology. Biohackers implant or alter their bodies to enhance their senses in their own garages. Given how apparently easy and desirable, to a select number of people, enhancement seems to be, the question becomes who or what can choose and regulate the extent of ability a person can have. How invasive is too invasive? Researchers question if the nature of a person's mind can or will be changed by linking human and machine mental function. Human psychology has and will likely continue to adjust for technology. Neil Postman said, "Every great technology is embedded with an epistemological, political, or social prejudice. If we use technology that we can't get away from, then we're likely to adopt its views. Given this, we can infer that the more invasive technology becomes, the greater its influence will be. AI implants can guide personal judgment and could control personal action, and we could lose our ability to decide for ourselves. But the public is just about as skeptical as we are."
When it comes to people who don't have mental challenges, but at the same time are already having issues with just like their smartphones and not being able to sleep, I can't imagine having a computer directly plugged into your brain will help.
Implants that can optimize emotive and moral judgment could just be an overly scientific way of removing free thought. What is a human? Aristotle, Plato, and Aquinas all agree that humans are simply rational animals. Humans have sense perception, rational thought, and the qualities of being living, sentient, sociable, and rational. There are two views supporting intense physical augmentation. The first is to use technology to help people become the most fully actualized versions of rational humans, while a transhumanist view is to create a new species of perfectly mended human machines called posthumans. Dr. Barondo says, "The cyborgs of tomorrow will be healthy people who freely decide to implant technological devices in their bodies to improve their innate capabilities." Society has this growing view that we're modifiable, and we've already accepted non-health modification. So it may not be long before we accept technological modification as well. Should people be able to replace functional body parts just because they want to? Is it okay to replace a body part after a minor injury for the convenience or an excuse to get bionics? Will being organic be more difficult in a world of the mechanically enhanced? Can we still be considered human if we cast away our bodies? Or are the so-called human abilities of being living, sentient, sociable, and rational enough? Alright, let's take a quick look at how these ideas stack up against utilitarianism and deontology. Utilitarianism prioritizes the consequences of actions over the intent of actions that bring out happiness for the greatest number of people. It is an ethical duty to the society of people. I think it would generally be argued that this technology will bring out more wellness and happiness for most, but it's difficult to gauge the technology's consequences. If there was greater wage-class division or loss of privacy, would more people still be happy? Utilitarianism would agree so long as more people are happy, and as such would likely have far less limitation than deontology. Deontology prioritizes the character of actions and a respect for others. This is an ethical duty to the people of society. I think deontology would also agree to this technology, but only to an extent. The tech needs to be given out of respect and not to use people as a means to an end. So, deontology would agree to perfecting HA therapy, and maybe even some regulated enhancement, but would draw the line past that. First, we're going to discuss the socio-economic issues, all of which closely relate to each other. HA will undoubtedly improve people's health and cognition, extending lifespans and helping to increase the population. This increase will lead to the reduction of resources and create greater competition in many aspects of life. Augmentation will likely be a sign of high status, and class divisions and discrimination will form between the augmented and non-augmented. The 2005 movie Robots, which has an iconic intro scene,
I'm here! I'm here!
Oh, honey, I'm so sorry. You missed the delivery. But it's okay. Making the baby's the fun part.
puts this into a good perspective.
Let's get down to the business of sucking every loose penny out of Mr. and Mrs. Average Knucklehead. Upgrades, people, upgrades. That's how we make the dough. Now, if we're telling robots that no matter what they're made of, they're fine, how can we expect them to feel crummy enough about themselves to buy our upgrades and make themselves look better?
There will be issues in fairness at school and in the workplace. Augmented children could have ultra-high cognition or athleticism, creating a disparity in educational experience and acceptance. companies will likely hire augmented people over organic people for their higher efficiencies. Due to a societal need to be augmented to succeed, parents who can afford to augment their children likely will, even without their consent. Health affects population, which affects culture and employment. Employment drives wealth for the augmented, leading to more augmentation and more disparity. With time, different models and options for different classes will be available. This brings the question of device longevity and support. Will HA devices be under a new insurance or a warranty? Some devices will be easily replaceable, while others will cost a considerable amount to replace. Newer and newer HA devices may require a BMI update, which has the same concerns as already mentioned. This world will be very connected, man to machine to environment, and such tech poses a threat to privacy. It would be a lot easier to watch others and be watched, get data collected on, or be tracked. We've become so used to sacrificing privacies or accepting conditions for the sake of convenience. Hacking is always an issue, but in this connected world, it will be more dangerous than ever. If a hacker hacks you, it'll be much easier to breach other devices. The scary thing is that hacked HA technology could be easily controlled. Yes, a hacker could control your body. These issues are wild, innumerable, and critical. If this is the society of our future, we must take these concerns seriously. For the interest of time, this conclusion will sound like a prescription drug warning and ads. Integrated human augmentation will one day change how people in society operate. There can be great advances in health and wellness, and we will see the end of disability as we know it. The ethical concerns are just, and questions of humanity, psychology, socioeconomics, privacy, and safety must be evaluated before being released for the world to use and grow from. This society, which is likely to blossom in the future, will require a great deal of regulation to succeed. A practical combination of utilitarian and deontological policies will be necessary to find the best combination of positive consequences under moral action. The future as we've seen in science fiction is drawing closer to the reality of today. I'd like to give a special thanks to the professor, Melissa, this wonderful class, UC Davis, and Civilization's Fragile Dependence on Technology and the Human Desire to Go Beyond for making this video possible. So, are you ready?